Hey guys, it's Luke Yon, and today I'm going to be doing my birthday book haul. I know this is a bit late because my birthday is smack dab in the middle of June, so it's been about a month. But I was actually on vacation during my birthday, and I didn't get home until like the 25th, and then I got all my presents like a few days later because it was just like we didn't want the presents to just be like sitting at the house. So I like books to just be like sitting outside the house in packages. So I didn't open them for like a few days, and then this is just like the first time I've had a chance to film this video, but I'm really excited to show you all the books that I got. I really only do book hauls for Christmas and my birthday because that's really the only time I get like a lot of books. Like during the rest of the year I mostly only buy like new releases, and even that is rare. So yeah, let's just jump right into the video. So actually the first book that I have to talk about I don't have with me because it's upstairs, but that is the UK hardcover edition of Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I have been wanting to purchase this book for so long because I have the Strange the Dreamer edition, or like UK edition, and it's always been so expensive to get this Muse of Nightmares edition. Like literally, like people are selling it for like $300, but I found someone on Amazon who was selling it for like $20. So I decided to purchase it. It was like used, but it's in perfectly good condition. So yeah, I just forgot to bring that downstairs, but I got it. Then I also purchased the UK hardcover special editions of Ignite Me and Restore Me by Tahad Mafi. I am obsessed with these editions. As you can see, I have them all on that top shelf here because I actually moved my Tahad Mafi books to that shelf over there. So I wanted to have all her books like in my room, but I couldn't fit all these special editions on that shelf, so I have them on top of my bookcase. But yeah, these are like the newest releases. I love these so much. They have really beautiful covers with gold foiling, and then they have sprayed edges. They also have really cool end papers, so Ignite Me's is orange and Restore Me's is purple. I can't wait for the Defy Me and Imagine Me editions to come out because I just think these are really amazing editions for people who love this series like me. Okay, the next book that I have is With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. This is his newest release, and I actually just read this book at the beginning of July. It is a mystery thriller book that is set in the 50s, and it follows a main character named Anna. And she basically has had a lot of trauma in the last decade or so. Her family has kind of fallen apart, and she decides to book a train and bring all of these people on the train that she thinks are responsible for the destruction of her family, and she is going to interrogate all of them on this one-way trip from Philadelphia to Chicago. I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to talk about more about my feelings on it in my July wrap-up. But if you love Murder on the Orient Express, it definitely has a lot of those vibes. It feels very classic mystery. Definitely more mystery vibes than thriller, but it was really enjoyable. I was super excited as soon as I heard about the concept, and I'm really happy that I received it because it ended up being a really, really solid book. Next, I have The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Amelie Wen Zhao. This is her latest release. It is the first book in a duology, and I don't know a ton about it. I know it deals with Chinese mythology, and it follows a main character who ends up entering herself into these like trials, and there are demons in this world. I'm not entirely sure, but I have heard some pretty good reviews about it, and I do really love the Amelie Wen Zhao books that I've read in the past. I've read Blood Heir, and I've also read her Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, and Dark Star Burning Ash Falls White series. I believe it's called the Song of the Last of the something, I don't know, but I also love this cover. I think it's so beautiful. It has sprayed edges as well, and the end papers are also really cool, and under the dust jacket is super nice as well. So I definitely am looking forward to picking this up when I'm looking for like a mythological type fantasy, and I also love her writing so much. Staying in that same vein, I also have Red Tigress by Amelie Wen Zhao, the sequel to Blood Heir. I read Blood Heir in December, and I am super excited to have the sequel because it definitely ended on an interesting note, and I'm looking forward to see what happens next. It is set in like a Slavic-inspired fantasy realm and is sort of like a loose retelling of Anastasia. I really, really enjoyed it. I, as I said, love Amelie's writing, and the atmosphere it's really great, so I can't wait to continue with this trilogy. Next, I have Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. I have been seeing this book everywhere. I always see it at Barnes & Noble. It has one of the most gorgeous covers I've ever seen. I love like kind of busy illustrated covers like these. It also has sprayed edges, which is becoming more and more popular. I think like the first book I ever saw that had it was like the Six of Crows duology, but I feel like in recent years tons of books are getting sprayed edges now, which is really, really cool. I know this book was originally released like in 2018, but they did a re-release with this beautiful cover, and I've heard amazing things about T. Kingfisher. I've never read any of their books, but I know they do like really cool kind of like almost cozy fantasy stories, and this definitely seems like it's going to be that. I believe it follows two characters. One of them is like in charge of this sword, or like they both end up in charge of this sword. I don't know. I read the synopsis a couple of times and it has intrigued me, so I think I'm gonna just jump into it with like that loose synopsis in my head. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to read this, and I think it'll be great for when I just want like a chill sort of romantasy book to dive into. Then I have The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the UK edition, which I think is so much prettier than the American edition. I love this cover so much. It's so beautiful, and I also love the back as well. I am a fan of Maggie Stiefvater. I have read The Raven Cycle, which I did really enjoy. I still have it on my shelves, and I did also read All the Crooked Saints, which I did not enjoy, but this seems like it's going to be right up my alley. It takes place at this hotel in West Virginia that I think is inspired by the Greenbrier, which I have actually stayed at because my sister went to college sort of near there in Virginia, so we went there one time when she was on break. So this takes place in 1942 at the Avalon Hotel, which is a very luxurious resort in the mountains of West Virginia, and it says on the back that war comes to the Avalon dressed in fine furs and government suits. Under the State Department's watchful eye, the Guilfoyle air welcomes 300 enemy diplomats and Nazi sympathizers. So it sounds like it's going to be really interesting. I don't know if there's any like fantasy aspects, I'm not entirely sure, but this cover just totally sold me, and even though I didn't enjoy All the Crooked Saints, I love Maggie Stiefvater's writing, which was true with The Raven Cycle as well, and I'm sure it's going to translate into this book as well. It's a standalone, and I think it'll just be really cool, really atmospheric with like touches of historical as well. Next, I have They Went Left by Monica Hesse. This is a World War II historical fiction novel that follows a girl named Zofia who is traveling across post-war Europe because she is trying to find her brother, who she hopes is still alive, because during the war he was sent to the gas chambers and she was sent away, so she was able to escape the Nazis. So I believe she is Polish, and my family is Ukrainian, but they're from Western Ukraine, so Western Ukraine was part of Poland during World War II, so I don't know where exactly she's from, but I really do enjoy reading about World War II historical fiction novels, and especially ones that feature Eastern European characters, because it definitely hits very close to home, so it's hard to read at times, but definitely very impactful. I've heard great things about Monica Hesse, and I've also heard amazing things about this book in particular, so I can't wait to read it when I'm able to handle a heavy story like this. Then I have The Cuban Heiress by Chanel Cleaton. I have heard good things about this author. I know she wrote Next Year in Havana, and I believe this takes place on a ship, obviously, and I think it follows an heiress, a Cuban heiress. Wow, you never would have been able to guess that, I'm sure. But I think it follows her, like, dealing with secrets coming back from her past. I'm not entirely sure. I'll probably go into this one not knowing a ton, but as I said, I know a lot of people enjoy reading books from this author, and this one was just the one that appealed to me the most when I was looking through them. And I do, as I said, I love historical fiction novels that take place during World War II, but that tends to be very oversaturated in the genre, so I think it'll be interesting to read a historical fiction novel that doesn't focus on that, but looks at a different part of the world, different characters, and stuff like that. Then I have Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. This is a romance book that I read a few years ago. I read an ebook of it, and I've always wanted a physical copy because I did really enjoy it. It's one of my favorites from them. And it's sort of like an adventure romance type of story. It's like Indiana Jones meets romance. It's like very interesting, and I do plan on rereading it at some point in the future, but I'm happy to have a physical copy. Then I have Traitor by Amanda Macrina. All I know about this book is that it is like a YA historical thriller, and what it says on the front, an effortlessly immersive account of a shocking and little-known moment in the turbulent history of Poland and Ukraine, and ironically, a piercing and bittersweet story of unflinching loyalty. As I said earlier, love historical fiction that follows characters from Eastern Europe, and as I said, I am Ukrainian, so I think this one will be very hard-hitting, very interesting, and also thrilling. Next, I have Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. This is another book that I just read at the beginning of July, and it follows a soul named Evelyn who is reincarnated every 18 years and is kills another soul named Arden. And it's very interesting. The tagline sums it up perfectly. They loved each other in 1,000 lifetimes. They killed each other in every one. It definitely has the Invisible Life of Addie LaRue vibes. This is How You Lose the Time War vibes. And also, I think, like, some Daughter of Smoke and Bone aspects to it as well. So if you like any of those books, I think you'll really enjoy this one. It's a super quick read. Goes through tons of different continents and time periods, and definitely very romantic as well. So I was happy to purchase this because it's been all the rage lately, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in my July wrap-up as well. Next, I have to talk about one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I love V.E. Schwab. She's one of my favorite authors of all time. I've read so many of her books, especially The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I think is probably most similar to this one. It, I believe, like, follows vampires. Like, there's 3 main characters in different places. Vampires, yeah, it says on the back, 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, and one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be really good. I haven't seen a lot of like reviews, which is probably a good thing. I don't know. It seems like really long. I think this is definitely longer than Addie LaRue. Yeah, it's like over 500 pages. So I don't know when I'm going to get around to this. Maybe in the fall. I feel like that'll be a good time to pick this up. But nevertheless, super excited about it and very happy to have it in my possession. Okay, I just realized how many historical fiction books I actually have, because the next book I have to show you is The Bletchley Riddle by Ruta Sepetys and Steve Sheinkin. This is a middle grade historical fiction novel. I don't know exactly what it's about. It says House of Secrets, A War of Codes. I love Ruta Sepetys. I've read all of her books, and this is the only one that I have not read yet, and I'm very excited to read it. I haven't read a ton of middle grade historical fiction books. I actually can't remember the last time I even read a middle grade book, period. So I think this will be a good one to jump into, and a probably reliable one considering how much I love one of the authors. Next, I have Take Me Home Tonight by Morgan Matson. This is a contemporary novel which I read in May. It was the first book I read in May, so I talked about it in my next video, my May and June wrap-up. But this follows 2 main characters, Kat and Stevie, who are very involved in the theater department of their high school, and they decide to go to New York City for the night and see a show, have dinner, but basically a million things go wrong, and they have no phones, they're separated, and they have to try to reach Grand Central by midnight, but they're not sure if they can. So it's a very fun book, very fast-paced, great characters. Again, as I said, I talk about it in my next wrap-up, but I am happy to have a copy because I actually do really like the cover. Also, there's a dog on the back, so that's always a plus. Then I have This Vicious Grace by Emily Theda. I knew what this book was about months ago, and then I put it on my wish list for my birthday, and I've promptly forgotten basically everything about it. The only thing I know is that there's some, like, it's set in, like, a world inspired by Italy, because it's called, the series is called The Last Finestra, I believe. Finestra in Italian means window, so I think it's about someone who is, like, a window to magic or something, and each chapter begins with an Italian epitaph, basically. So I was excited to read this because I forget which author, but I heard an author talk about how much they loved this book, and then I saw that it was inspired by Italy. So that's a good combination for me. That's all I really need to know, and I'm excited to give it a shot. Then I have Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is her release from last year, and I've already read it and everything, but I just wanted to wait until the paperback came out because I have paperbacks of all her other books, so wanted to wait to make sure my collection was not, like, out of order. Does that make sense? I don't know. But I've talked about this book a number of times. It is a very funny story, in fact. It is a very, like, confusing premise, but basically it's like these two people who end up living together after their exes, like, get together, and it's a romance book, so you can probably guess where it goes, but I really loved it, and I'm happy to have a copy for my collection. Then I have to talk about Taylor Jenkins Reid's latest release, Atmosphere. This is the UK edition because, no shade to the American edition, I think this is way prettier, and this was actually the first book that I read in July, so again, I'll talk about that when I review my books for July, but this is set in the 80s, and it's like two timelines. One is following Joan, and it like goes through the years when she enters NASA and begins to train for them, and then it switches to a later timeline when she is trying to help a spacecraft while it is kind of about to be destroyed, and she's trying to help the people on board, one of whom she is in love with. I loved this book. It was great. Taylor Jenkins Reid pretty much never disappoints. Oh my god, what am I saying? So yeah, loved this. Can't wait to talk about it more in my wrap-up, and very excited to have it, especially this beautiful UK edition. Okay, we're down to the last two books, the first being A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim. This is, I believe, a Beauty and the Beast retelling featuring East Asian mythology. I really love Elizabeth Lim. I've read all of her books, and I really enjoyed all of them. I particularly love the Six Crimson Cranes series. That's one of my favorites, and I believe this is a standalone, and on the back it says, "A girl who paints the future, a cursed dragon lord, bound by love and deception, they will bring down the gods." So, sounds right up my alley, and I love Elizabeth Lim's writing so much, and I'm excited to see what she does with this type of story. Okay, we are finally down to the last book, and it is the book that I'm actually currently reading, and that is The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is a fantasy story that takes place in the 12th century, and it follows a main character named Amina al-Sarafi, who at the start of the story is a retired pirate. She is living in a coastal town with her mother and her daughter when she's approached by an elderly woman who tries to recruit her for a special mission, and Amina is at first tentative, but when she figures out what the sum, or the reward for this task is, she comes out of retirement, reunites with some of her old crew, and sets back on the high seas of the Indian Ocean to complete this mission. And I'm really loving it so far. I have like 50-ish pages to go, maybe more, I don't know, but I'm definitely going to finish it today. Super excited. It's great. I have read S.A. Chakraborty's City of Brass trilogy. This is definitely a very different vibe, but I really, really am loving it, and I love this UK edition as well. The Brits are really just better cover designers, I have to admit it. But that is it for my birthday book haul. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have read any of these books, I'd love to know your thoughts on them, and yeah, that is it for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed. All of my social media links are in the description box below, and I will see you soon for a new video. Bye!